Salam alaikum, marhaba, and welcome to Dubai Holdings' first International Women's Day group-wide virtual event, the Women of Tomorrow. I'm Brandy Scott from Dubai 103.8, and I'm delighted to have been asked to moderate this event for you today. It's an event that's designed to celebrate and showcase what the women of Dubai Holding and this emirate have achieved and ask, how do we do more of it? Now, it's not an event that is coming from a place of lack. 70% of the UAE's graduates are female. Half of federational and national council seats are headed by women. We've got equal wage legislation, paternity pay, that's great for women as well, by the way, and a raft of progressive legislation. Listed companies have been told that they need female representation on every board here. And here at Dubai Holding, we've got fabulous women doing great things at every level. I know I work directly for one of them and with many of them. But as you know, this emirate and this company, well, we don't rest on our laurels. To quote Christine Lagarde, the current president of the European Central Bank, when women do better, economies do better. And so today we want to see how we can all do better. And how are we going to achieve that? Well, over the next 2 hours, we're going to hear from some of the senior women leading the charge across Dubai Holdings' key sectors, including hospitality, real estate, community creation, entertainment, and media. They are going to share what they've learned in their careers so that we can use that to get more women in Dubai into the private sector and to help them rise within it. Now, I say women, but this is the kind of experience and insight that everyone can benefit from. We're also going to hear from the Dubai Holding Group CEO about what the group is doing in terms of gender equality. And that's just the first hour. In the second, we'll have a series of special breakout sessions that look at pursuing different careers across the various industries within the Dubai Holding portfolio. And we invite you to join the sessions that most interest you, and you'll be able to toggle between them, all the sessions, and then watch them afterwards at your leisure. They're being recorded because we don't want you to miss a thing. And also, we want to hear from you, because on the call today, we've got Dubai Holding senior management and teammates, we've got our customers, we've got our partners, we've got entrepreneurs, we've got students, we've got recent graduates. It's a great mix, and I urge you all to interact with us and ask questions, because we've got so many valuable points of view here. But without any further ado, I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker, the Group Chief Executive of Dubai Holding, Amit Kaushal, to give the opening address.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and a very warm welcome to you all. Wherever you are logging in from today, I hope that you are all in good health and staying safe. I would like to thank you for joining us today for the launch of Women of Tomorrow, our new flagship group-wide virtual event to mark International Women's Day 2022. I'm delighted to see online with us today many of Dubai Holdings stakeholders and employees, many women-owned businesses, graduates, students, and others from our wider community. It is a privilege for us to have this opportunity to honor and celebrate our female business leaders and colleagues whose endless contributions to our organization, our community, and society as a whole has made a significant contribution to what the UAE is today. Since the beginning of time, women have raised generations after generations of individuals, including other women who went on to achieve great things. And now, after the world finally understood the true impact of allowing women access to the same opportunities as men, we are all living and benefit from the greatness women themselves are achieving. As a son, brother, and husband, I have personally experienced and seen how capable, strong, and determined women are. If it weren't for my mother and her solid dedication, persistence, and belief in my abilities, I wouldn't be where I am today. My wife, a qualified lawyer, is my greatest asset, a courageous and insightful woman steering us together towards greater ambitions from a foundation built on compassion. Of course, I am not the only person working hard for such a future. The road towards achieving gender equality has been quite eventful, but there is no denying that getting to the end of that road and closing the gender gap is of utmost importance. From the first year of its establishment, over 50 years ago, the UAE has believed in the importance of empowering women, preserving their rights, and providing them with all kinds of support. And today, gender equality is a key objective of the UAE government's agenda and drives a wide range of efforts to ensure an inclusive, diversified, and gender-balanced environment across all fields. We see many women holding key leadership roles across government entities, as well as organizations in the public and private sectors across the country. And thanks to enduring hard work, tremendous effort, and numerous accomplishments in their respective fields, their contributions have helped the UAE grow even further. From this government's agenda and national priority comes Dubai Holdings' commitment to gender equality. It is a commitment that also aligns with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 5, which is to close the gender gap, achieve gender equality, and to empower all women, a commitment that we have cemented with a pledge in partnership with the UAE Gender Balance Council. The pledge aims to empower women in the private sector and ensure women fill at least 30% of all middle and senior management positions by 2025. This is a pledge we are proud to have made earlier this year to our thousands of female employees across Dubai Holding to allow for their full and effective participation and access to equal opportunities for leadership at all levels of decision-making. As a responsible business and key player in the socio-economic development of the UAE, Dubai Holding believes in the sustainable and strategic value that results from the increase in female participation in the workforce. Research has consistently demonstrated that having more women in the workplace inspires productivity, and women in leadership roles greatly contribute to the enhancement of any business performance. In fact, almost 3/4 of global companies that monitored and tracked gender diversity in their management have reported profit increases of between 5 and 20%, with the majority of companies seeing increases of between 10 and 15%. Studies by the International Monetary Fund have also shown that empowering women in the workforce spurs economic growth, as boosting women's labor market participation to the same level as men's would raise GDP by between 5 and 34%. Backed by such research, in addition to what we believe is genuinely the right thing to do, it is evident that female participation in the workforce greatly influences economic growth. And it is one of the many reasons why we at Dubai Holding believe in the importance of nurturing and harnessing women's talents and ensuring equal opportunities for their partaking in higher roles. This strong belief has driven us to take a significant step, an important milestone in the history of the group. We are proud to have recently launched our Gender Equity and Inclusion Framework, governed by the Dubai Holding Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council. Dubai Holding's strategic gender equity and inclusion framework adopts a gender lens approach to nurture talent across the group through an inclusive culture and policies that support a gender-balanced workplace and community. The framework is built on 3 core program pillars: accelerate, impact, and reach. The first pillar, the Accelerate program, seeks to attract, retain, and develop top talent into high positions and involve them in decision-making. An initiative such as the Dubai Holding Coaching Program, launched in 2021, is a mere example of providing talented colleagues from across the group with greater clarity on their unique career paths, as well as personal progression and development opportunities. The first phase of the coaching program focused on propelling the careers of our high-performing and high-potential female colleagues from across the group. Also, as part of the Accelerate program, I am proud and pleased to announce on this special day celebrating International Women's Day that we have selected 15 senior female candidates for the Director Development Program by Haukama Middle East Institute for Corporate Governance. This specially curated program for Dubai Holding will further empower these 15 female colleagues cultivate their talents, and help enhance their skill sets. This will support them in advancing into more senior management positions, as well as leadership roles, as well as become board ready. This step aligns with our gender equality strategy to not only empower women across our business sectors, but to also contribute to sustainable economic growth and diversification. I can't wait to celebrate our 15 senior female candidates and their future successes towards the end of this new program. The second pillar, the Impact program, is focused on implementing inclusive policies, systems, and processes for optimal employee and business performance. These will help reduce any unconscious bias in the recruitment, selection, and promotion processes. We've introduced an updated human capital policy, ranging from adopting a blind recruitment process to facilitating the return of female employees on maternity leave. The third and final pillar, the REACH program, aims to promote gender-conscious stakeholder engagement partnerships, products, and services. Today's event, Women of Tomorrow, is an example of this program coming to life. The event provides you a unique opportunity to hear from and engage with leading women and men who will share their insights into our diverse business sectors: hospitality, real estate, asset management, and entertainment and media. Through our three-pillar gender equality framework, and with the positive results anticipated over the coming months and years, Dubai Holding aims to set a benchmark and provide a leading example for organizations in the UAE and beyond that strive to foster a more gender-balanced work environment. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thank you again for joining us today, and we hope you find this event, Women of Tomorrow, full of insight and inspiration. And to conclude, I would like to echo the wise words of our nation's fine leadership, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum. Our job is to provide an environment that unlocks women's potential, one that protects their dignity and femininity, helps them create the necessary balance in their lives, and values their talents and potential. Given this environment, I am confident that women will perform nothing short of miracles. Thank you.
Thanks for staying with us. We're going to dive now into our first panel. And I'm going to be frank with you. I feel that we always walk a fine line with International Women's Day because it can be quite easy to get it wrong. It can be quite easy to end up congratulating women for being both female and having a big job. But at the same time, I also feel that it's important to celebrate the gains that women have made, especially in a multicultural society like the UAE, where people have come to us here from other countries and backgrounds, where a lot of those gains may have been hard won. And also, when women rise, well, everyone does. That equality policy that Amit has just outlined benefits everyone, regardless of where you've come from, whether you've had to fight for things, whether you haven't had to fight at all, whether you're male or female. Actually, things like equal pay, things like that commitment to development, flexible work strategies, they are for all of us. And so is today's panel. We are going to hear from some of the women who are driving key sectors across Dubai Holding. And I want to use their experience and their advice to inspire other women to enter the private sector and to rise within it. But, and I made this point earlier, this is advice that everybody can gain from. These women are at the top of their game, full stop, not just as businesswomen, but as business leaders. Let me introduce them to you now. And these introductions, by the way, are not as comprehensive as they should be, but they would pretty much take up our whole 50 minutes. To my left, I have Khadija Bastaki. She is the Executive Director of Dubai Design District, which is part of Dubai Holding Asset Management. She plays a key role in building D3's profile regionally and internationally as a leading destination for design, art, and culture, while building a real community here, attracting and nurturing homegrown talent and elevating the UAE cultural and design scene to a global level. She's got more than 15 years experience doing this, executive experience in business development, portfolio management, business protocol, and international relations. Sitting directly next to me, Dubale is the Chief Human Resources Officer at Jumeirah, which is part of Dubai Holding Hospitality. Her job is to create an employee-driven culture with empowered leadership and to make sure that Jumeirah sources, hires, develops, promotes, and inspires all of its people in a way that is industry-leading so that Jumeirah can deliver on its own goals and deliver results. She's got more than 25 years experience as a senior HR leader working across the world, and she's a founding partner of Inside Out International. That's a consultancy working with companies across the globe to drive performance through people. Joining us remotely today, Michelle Saywood is Vice President of Design at North 25. That's part of Dubai Holding Real Estate. Michelle leads the design management team at North 25. She's been responsible for delivering a number of different projects from hospitality to residential communities, including most recently taking a lead role in the very exciting Museum of the Future. And she's got more than 20 years experience in her field. And to my far right, Sara Stevens is operations head of the Green Planet at Dubai Holding Entertainment. They say never work with animals or children, but Sara, who has a master's degree in anthrozoology and marine biology, has worked with pretty much every animal you can name, from dolphin to spiders. She's been part of the Green Planet team for over 5 years now, helping to create the most diverse multi-species habitat in the world. But it's business as well. Her current role involves everything from planning to strategy execution, commercial services, managing budgets, managing sales, managing marketing, as well as the day-to-day business of keeping 4,000 animals alive and well. Now, you've got a chance to ask your questions to these women this morning. Do you have any? And you can post those questions throughout the session in the messages tab, and I'm reading this to make sure I get it right. It's on the dashboard that's on the left-hand side of your screen. We're going to try and cover them towards the end of the session this morning. So let's look at how we can get more women into the private sector using the experience of these 4 women who are leading it. Let's talk about how you started in your careers first and what the gender balance is or was like, both in your education and the fields. Khadija, let's start with you. How unusual was it to have a woman entering commercial real estate when you started out?
Honestly, as the beginning, I joined the media clusters as a business development director in 2015. And prior to that, as mentioned, my portfolio and background was in the private and public sectors. Before speaking about the opportunities I had, I would like to say behind every powerful and successful woman is actually a powerful and successful government. So the UAE government emphasized on the importance of the women in the social and the economic fabric. And from there, the gender balance agenda and the Gender Balance Council will actually emphasize on these values and ensure that the policies are in place to get the equality rolling in the private and public sectors. Then the group, Dubai Holding, have championed on women's contribution in all verticals, hospitality, commercial, real estate, and that. This is where the agenda for the women's, the gender balance, have seen this forward and been empowered by the policies in place. Needless to say that with my respect to the leaders, they have supported my ambitions and also empowered me, have recognized my achievement. And this is where I got the opportunities nominated to lead the most diverse and the most creative, vibrant community, Dubai Design District.
Ellen, tell me, what were your goals when you started out in hospitality?
Well, thank you, Brandy. I had two ambitions growing up. One was to teach and the other was to travel. So hospitality, provided a great opportunity to do both. Frankly, I feel like I've managed to meet my need to provide learning and development throughout my career, and certainly have traveled. So hospitality is a great industry if you do want to do those things.
Michelle, joining us remotely this morning, you're in construction. Tell us, even starting from what you studied, a woman entering what I'm maybe stereotypically assuming is a more male-dominated field?
Very much so. But I was always convinced, and I always sort of pushed myself from a very, very young age. I always knew I wanted to become an architect. Not that that's what I became in the very end of where I am now, but I put myself into positions, always sort of having this sort of self confidence and self-empowerment to do what I wanted to do and follow that path that I set. So from a very young age, to become an architect, you need to do a number of disciplines that aren't always very female orientated. So my physics class, for example, I was the only girl in it, but I put myself at the front of the class, and I knew, come hell or high water, I was still going to do well in that classroom and in that course. And I moved through my career always having a drive, always knowing where I wanted to be next, always having a plan where I wanted to be in the next year, where I wanted to be in the next 5 years. And I think it's a level of that self-confidence throughout that has got me to where I want to be today. It's not about being obnoxious. It's just about having that drive. It's about that self-confidence that, if you commit yourself to a path, you can achieve it. And I think that's what I would like to be able to impart to women today, is self-belief, and empowering women to ensure that through their own self-belief, they can do anything that they want to achieve.
Now, Sara, I understand that there's quite a different gender balance in your field, in zoology, here in the Middle East from what you see in your home market.
Yes. So something that was interesting to me is, I think I was about 5 years old when I told my mom I wanted to work with animals and I wanted to work with the ocean. And she said, you should be a marine biologist. And I, took it to heart and just never changed my mind, full head, full stubbornness ahead, and decided that that's how it was going to be, come anything in my way. Now in the US, where I'm from, the zoological community, attractions community in general, is very much female led. In fact, most facilities that I worked at before I moved over to the US, you could maybe count on one hand the amount of male staff members that were within that field. So when I moved over to the UAE about 12 years ago, it came as quite a surprise to me that the majority of zoological professionals were male. It was just a difference for me. It was a really great learning and growing opportunity, but it was quite a difference moving over here. And I think that the perception of the manual labor, the cleaning up animal poop, the very hands-on dirty job was something that over the years, we've gotten that passion and that commitment, and more women really involved in a field that needs that passion and that drive over here, right here in Dubai. So I'm very privileged that I work with many more women than I did 10 years ago, and that it's something that's really coming along.
Well, let's talk about getting more women in your industries, and not just getting more women in your industries, but getting more women high up in your industries. I mean, Ellen, sorry, you're in hospitality. Portmanteau of hospitality and Ellen there for you. What needs to happen to get women out of some of the, I say softer roles, and there is nothing soft about doing housekeeping, but into more of the roles that carry more weight and power, the P&L roles?
Yeah, no, definitely. It's one of the things that I feel very strongly about. The hospitality is, we attract probably 50% male and women at the entry level, but by the time we get to the senior levels, we drop to about 10% female leaders. And so I think there's three things that hospitality needs to do differently. Number one is find ways to allow women to rotate, because it's kind of an apprenticeship type of development in hotels. You have to do the jobs in different locations, and so mobility is important. Second, obviously, is find ways to have women be able to leave the workforce and come back without losing time and traction. But third, to your point, I think it's very important, there's underrepresentation of women at CEO level. And one of the main reasons, I believe, and there's some research to back it up, is that women tend to gravitate or organizations tend to put them into the more G&A roles. So things like accounting, HR, marketing, legal, client relations, even investor relations. And so they don't touch the money. And the people who touch the money tend to be people who go on to have those more senior roles. And so what we need to do in hospitality is get people out of those places, which sometimes are sort of called the pink ghetto, into roles where they do that. And for us, that's in, food and beverage, it's in sales, it's in revenue producing areas, because in those areas you will get the high level negotiation skills, the business acumen skills, the decision-making skills, and the exposure to the decision makers that you'll need in order to go higher.
Sara, talk to me about how you gained those skills, because you studied zoology, anthropology, you studied marine biology. How did you gain the business skills that you now need to effectively run a business?
Sure. So exactly what Ellen was saying, it's very, it was difficult for me to kind of bridge that gap and cross that line. And a lot of it took being the person in the room who knew I was the least qualified, but was still willing to say my opinion. So they say that women are 80% less likely to speak up or to take something on when they're not 100% certain that they're overqualified for what they're doing. And I think that what we need is more women that are willing and that have the strength and have the confidence, and that we build the confidence in them to step up and say, I'm not 100% sure how to do this, but I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to take this on, and to take those leaps to learn on the job and take on things outside their comfort zone. I think stepping outside our comfort zone isn't necessarily something that comes easy to many, many women, but having examples, having leaders, having other women that they see do the same thing, and having that confidence built within you is really important to be able to have that on the job learning and that on the job training and development of skills. That is so important for us being able to break those barriers and move into advanced leadership positions.
Khadija, I want to get to you in about 2 seconds to ask you what we need to do to get more Emirati women into the private sector. But just before we do that, I'm going to get Michelle to pick up on a couple of the comments here about what it takes to get women into construction and to have them rise within it.
Yeah, I reiterate the latter points there. And it's very much a matter of instilling fearlessness in women, because particularly in the construction industry, where it is very male dominated, we're walking on site with 99% of the audience who we're having to speak to and sometimes shout at being male, and it becomes quite daunting for many. And I think for myself and for other women who are higher up in the construction industry, it is about making sure that we become the example, and we are there. I like to hope that I am the best person I can be at making others believe in themselves. So when I was 8 months pregnant, walking up the ladders of the Museum of the Future building, or Ain Dubai, when we were inspecting Ain Dubai, I think with my second child actually, we were inspecting Ain Dubai. And we were up looking through, the structure of the legs, and I had my team, half of which are girls, half of which are guys, following me up there. That's an extreme example, but that's an example of that fearlessness. Don't be fearful. Don't be concerned or worried to speak your voice, to get engaged, to roll up your sleeves, and to participate in what is a male-dominated environment, but with that confidence that I hope I impart to the ladies who work for me. That is the best mentorship. That's the sort of best way that you can really encourage ladies to work within a very male dominated environment. Fearlessness is key.
Khadija, talk to me about commercial real estate.
I wanted to add to Ellen's and them about mentorship. And This is where to encourage more women to join the industry. When they see other women in the senior roles, it actually encourages them to see their career path. It's as well give them confidence to share their expertise in that. And this is my role as an Emirati woman. I feel I have a double responsibility to ensure that the Emirati young women have the opportunities to get the confidence and work in and navigate in a male-dominated environment. And not necessarily that is as well to encourage them to enter the private sector. So
how do we get more Emirati women into the private sector, Khadija?
By encouraging them to join the force, by sharing an awareness with what is the benefit in joining a career with a private sector. This is where as well the Gender Balance Council have set all the rules to ensure that there is more encouragement to women and young Emiratis to join the private sectors.
Oh, Michelle mentioned mentorship there. Tell me, and I know that you guys are really hot on it in D3. Tell me what you're doing, not just with mentorship, but also with internships.
Yeah, we encourage, as a lot of our designers are actually females, and majority who joins the interior and architects fields are actually women-led. Even our students in the IDI, 75% of them of that is actually female students. So we encourage them by offering them the freelance packages. We have a lot of workshops and panel discussions about women in design, and such a day we also we celebrate the Women's Day by spotting light on the successful women and designers within the community.
Just a reminder, if you want to ask any questions to our panel, it is the messages tab on the left-hand side of your dashboard. While we are talking about mentorship and internship, what are you doing at Green Planet, Sara?
So at Green Planet, we're working quite hard on developing our frontline colleagues of what's going on in their future. So asking everyone on the team, let's do the best at your current position, but where do you want to be in a year? Where do you want to be in 5 years? And what skills can we work on developing for you to get to that next stage? So at the moment you're in guest service, but do you want to learn about how a P&L works? Can we talk to you about the marketing side? Would you like to learn a little bit more about the technology behind the ticketing system? How can we develop you in a way that we can help push you for your next goals? Because ideally, we're not just meeting our objectives in your current position, but I believe our job as any kind of leaders within our businesses is to be working towards everyone on your team being ready for that promotional opportunity as soon as it comes up, and make sure that they're developed to the point where they're ready to go with it. And I do think that there's a lot of times that you see women less, not motivated, but maybe a little bit more shy to step up and say, I want to take on more. I want to see what more I can do, and kind of settling with what you're currently doing. So being able to give them the push and say, no, what can we develop next? You know, where do you want to go? What's your passion? And make sure that no matter the background, no matter the culture that anyone comes from, they're set up knowing that they have the support system here within Dubai Holding to reach whatever their goals are and whatever comes next.
Well, Ellen, you're the one who's got the HR experience with us today. Is this something that needs to happen formally or informally? What do you think?
Well, I've seen it happen both ways. I do think that, you know, mentoring relationships can be set up, but the best ones are the ones that happen organically. And I think it's great to have programs, and every organization should have one, but I think it's also the onus is on the woman and on me, frankly. I mean, I've always had mentors, I've always had sponsors, I've always had people that nobody ever has said no if I've asked them to be my mentor. Like it's a great honor, I think, to be asked to be a mentor. And so I would encourage our female leaders to step up and ask. It's the worst thing that someone can say is no. I've never seen it happen. But really put yourself out there and say, you know, I want to have a mentor. I want to have somebody who can help me. And I think formal programs are the basis, but I think that the genesis is at the level of the person who really wants to go further. They may not know where they want to go, but they should not be afraid to ask for help.
What is it realistic to expect from a mentor, and how does it differ from having a sponsor or a champion?
For me, a mentor is somebody who gives advice, who is a sounding board, who listens to what the challenges you might have are, who might help you navigate through the political sort of environment that you're in. A sponsor is somebody who may not even know you. You know, they speak for you at the table, but they may not know, they may know the work that you do, they may not know you personally. And then a coach is somebody altogether different, who is very invested in your actual development. So I think there's nuances between them, and I think we should have all three.
Michelle, you said something interesting to me when I spoke to you about a week ago about wanting to be an example, but not to be the example. Can you tell us what you meant by that?
Yeah, I've never wanted to, or I'm quite sort of opinionated about not ever wanting to objectify myself as a woman. I think it's important that, you know, while we are talking today about empowering women, you know, we should all consider ourselves as members of a team. We're here as members of a team, as equal as the chaps who are doing the job alongside us, and we're here to get that job done. You know, so in so doing, I hope that I'm setting an example to all. You know, it's not necessarily just the women, it's to the guys. And I think it's important that when you are looking to become a mentor, you are not necessarily setting yourself as that named mentor. You're there to set that example. And I think that's what I meant by that statement, Brandy. I think, you know, it's important to embrace anybody's passion. I mean, nobody can achieve C-suite level positions unless they have a passion. You cannot become a senior member of an organization without committing yourself to that organization or to that profession. And so how we as individuals start to sort of set out a framework around people who are coming up within the ranks of our organization is important. And it's that empowering of people that I think, whether it be a male or a female, I think is important. As a woman myself, setting that example to a team, and that they are committed, you know, and that you are encouraging them to become committed to their position.
A lovely lot of questions in here, which we're going to get to in about, 10-15 minutes. But one of the things that I am interested to know is where we go. And Michelle, I'm going to come to you on this first. And it's one of the things I struggled with putting together the questions for this panel, and it touches on what you've just said. How do we ensure things like equality and representation without stereotyping or othering, or sort of almost negating what we're doing by making women the exception?
I think that's the important thing, is that they should never be made the exception. You know, we are women, so it's a fact. You can't deny the fact that you are a woman. But you know, the division and the objectifying, I think is wrong. You know, again, to reiterate the point, you're a member of a team, and the moment you start to objectify women as a sex or as something independent or different to men, then you start to sort of belittle their ability. You know, there is always, and we're striving here for equality. So let's just dispel that issue that there is difference. There is not difference. Yes, we have different abilities. I don't ever expect myself to be on the construction site, you know, with the chaps who are pulling, you know, huge pieces of steel up onto the facade of the building. But I was there standing at the bottom of the building, instructing the guy to make sure it was going up correctly and being put in place. So, you know, there's a role that we can play, and there is an equality in that regard, that understand your abilities, but don't ever be, don't ever feel that your abilities or the fact that you're a woman can hold you back or make you lesser than your peers, male or female.
Is there anyone else who'd like to speak to that?
Well, I guess I completely agree with Michelle, and I think that you know, it would bother me to feel like somebody was giving me a leg up or giving me, you know, singling me out as a special species. I'm not. But what I would say is that, you know, over the years, I've used all the data points to sort of compel people around me, men and women, to hire and promote more women, just in order to get, you know, that equality. And all the data points are there. But frankly, I don't think that the organic growth in industry, especially in mine, or the moral imperative is fast enough. I mean, the World Economic Forum says that it's going to take us 135 years to close the gender gap. Fortunately, and you said it before, we're in a country that really is fast forwarding that. But I do think I do think there are policies and goals that need to be put in place in order to make it happen.
I'm going to throw a slight curveball in here with one of the questions that have been sent in from Naji, who wants to ask the panel, what would you ask male colleagues to think or do differently to make your workplace more inclusive for women? Volunteers.
That's an interesting one. I mean, I think ideally I would say you'd ask our male colleagues or male counterpoints to not think about the gender difference when making decisions or when working together, to kind of take the gender off the table and think more skill set wise, you know, whose talents mean who should be doing what parts of the job, but kind of take the fact that there's women and there's men out of the equation. Now, I do know that that's perfect world scenario, right? It's always going to be something in everyone's head. But I guess then the best thing I'd say is to recommend really looking at people's skill sets and looking at what their strengths are and their weaknesses as a person or an individual, and not so gender-based.
Yeah. Sorry, wanted to add to this is basically a simple formula, is that stepping into your department and office is basically stepping to your next home, and you have your brothers and sisters and family in, so treating them as your sisters and family, backing them up, protecting them, being really supportive and hearing them is exactly creating that right balanced environment in the department. So I always encourage the team members that what happens in the office, what happens within this is exactly you guys dealing with your colleagues in at home and office.
Yeah, and I guess I would say it's about language. So, you know, people say there's research to suggest that more men apply for jobs when they don't have the 100% of the skills than women, that in performance evaluations, there is a propensity to look at potential in men and performance in women. So I think, you know, in my role as an HR leader and all of us, we just need to be attuned to the language to answer that question and to say, hang on a minute, if what are we talking about here? Are we talking about the person's skills? Are we talking about what they can do? Or are we talking about what they have done? And so I think we have to just make sure that that language is applied equally and fairly across genders.
Yeah.
Michelle, do you want to jump in with us here?
I would just reiterate the points, really. It's just when I walk into the office, everybody, no matter what level they are in level of seniority or male, female, we are all there to get the job done. So you all contribute in the different ways that each person can contribute because of the different skill sets that a team brings to the table. So I couldn't say anything more than the other ladies have said.
Well, actually, and I'll use that point to bring us to the new gender equality policy, who, if you're one of the people on this call who work for Dubai Holding, you will have been emailed in the last week. Emmett has mentioned it. It's in line with some of the massive raft of legislation that we've had here in the UAE lately. I'm interested in what points from that policy you find particularly interesting or exciting, or that you think are going to affect your workforce the most.
Blind recruiting.
Now, when we're talking about blind recruiting, we're talking about having the gender, name, any identifying details stripped off of a CV.
Correct. Yeah.
Which works because? Well,
I think it allows you to focus on the skills of the person and their resume versus their gender, because, you know, we all have bias. We have bias towards, you know, nationalities, ages, everything. And you can't, you know, you can try to control your bias, but you have it. So I think what you do there is you take away that opportunity, and you've seen, you know, the symphony orchestras who did blind auditions and who increased their female players by 50%. You see it in cooking competitions. You know, when you take away this bias, you get a more level playing field. And so that's why I'm excited about blind recruiting.
Is there anything that sticks out in the policy for anyone else they'd like to mention?
I actually agree completely. My team was having a conversation about this the other day, that even the idea that blind recruiting will take away the photo at the top of the CVs that you see, because that photo just tends to be the first thing that you look at, you judge, and then you move on from there. Everyone does it. You can't help it. But at the end of the day, looking at someone's funny mustache or looking at, you know, the way their hairstyle should have nothing to do with their skill set and whether or not they'd be a great new member for your team. So I think it'll be a very interesting change.
Well, it's age as well, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It all plays a factor.
Sure. I'm adding it to them. It's true. We hope that takes place.
Michelle?
Yeah, exactly the same point, to be honest, because it's not just about male, female, it's about age, it's about many, many things. Yes, you said good looking, not so good looking, you know, we all make decisions on these things. So yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think there's an important point about maternity as well, and paternity that you mentioned, Brandy, as well earlier. You know, it is difficult for women, and I've gone through in my 14 years with Dubai Holdings and Miras before that 3 children. You know, and the ability to leave and come back and still participate in the way that you used to participate isn't easy. And the support that Dubai Holdings can give in that regard, as the policy suggests, is all commendable. So, you know, these are things that women have to, the women do more than men. I have to say, here's where our specialties come. Yeah, so any support that Dubai Holdings gives in that regard is fundamental and should be encouraged fully.
Which actually is a question, and I'm paraphrasing here, that we have from Umair as well, which is about getting into the workforce, or getting back into the workforce after that break, 35 plus. If you're not in your early 20s sort of and stay in, can you re-enter? I mean, you've got a very strong female team with you, Khadija. A lot of them will have, as Michelle was saying there, come in and out of the workforce around having children. Yeah. How do you do it? How do you position your CV?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we can talk about benefits, and I think those are things that are important, but I think more important, organizations have to do things like encouragement, engagement. So being in touch with people who are outside of the workforce, and education. So finding ways to make the re-entry, you know, more, you know, I was very fortunate when I had my first child. I don't know how this happened, frankly, because hospitality is not great at it. But I was able to come back for 4 days a week for 6 months. So it just sort of allowed me to ease back in a way that was conducive. And as Michelle said, you know, it's so intense, but you have such a conflict, and so you have to try and manage it. So I think organizations need to look at creative ways, not just benefits.
Well, actually, that brings us to a brilliant point someone else has made about the pandemic, working from home, work flexibility, what all of that has meant for women. Khadija, what's it meant for you guys in D3? Sure.
The pandemic was all difficult for all of us, and do remember that we, as a team, started hearing the designers and hearing everyone through their challenges, male and female, who owned their companies, especially the entrepreneurs. And there were women who lost the jobs, and there were who lost their companies. So we had to start offering them solutions and ground. So who lost their jobs, we started offering them go freelance packages, and that boomed really very well. It shined them out. It gave them an opportunity to really expose and excel in their talents. And speaking about the women who lost their the companies and they have to dissolve, we started offering them opportunities to downsize their spaces, you know, relook at their numbers, and tell them, you know, this is the right moment. Just cut down your cost, you know, and we have other facilities, creative facilities that you can use and utilize. Needless to say that 2020 November, we had the first physical in-person event, which is Dubai Design Week, that have sent out a true message about how Dubai was resilient and Dubai's way thinking forward. And this has have boosted the morale to the designers we had it in. So first globally and also first in Dubai in November. So we're really proud that D3 showed resilience and as well as Dubai.
When it comes to working from home, though, I mean, there are some industries where you can, and there are some industries, hospitality, feeding sloths, where it's a little bit harder.
Yes, my COVID story, and I feel like in my industry is a little bit different from most in that my team was on ground, on site, even when Dubai was quite empty due to the vital need of making sure that the animals get their food and get fed, and everything needs to happen no matter what. And something that I found very interesting is that there's a lot of talk of work-life balance during COVID and people being back home. But what I found is for people who are still going into the office or still going on site, it became tricky because people started working really late at night or really early during the day, or, you know, whenever suited you in a home environment. But it meant if you were on the ground all day, you were still receiving emails or requests to get on calls until late at night because everyone's work schedules were all different. And it kind of made that work-life balance a little tricky because the starting line of the day starts at 9 or the day ends at 6 got super blurred for a while there. And I think that was tricky. Mm-hmm. I think from that, then as everyone came back, and of course our goal is just to get our operations teams back on site, it still creates a bit of a tricky dynamics because working from home isn't an option if you're in an operations team, right? You have to be on the ground with your guests. And especially at a colleague level or a frontline level, there isn't that work for you to do from the workplace. So whether that's post maternity leave or whether that's, you know, in that balance, you need to be on site for your shift because that's what your job requirement is, which just changes things and provides a bit of a different perspective.
Oh, not just feeding animals, but also feeding guests.
Yes, it's hard to serve coffee from home or check a guest in. So, at the same time, we have corporate, offices. And so there is the opportunity for people to work from home in a corporate environment. But when the majority of our people are on the ground, are guest facing, I don't think it's fair to have, a two-tier system. Although, I think that what we should be doing and what we can be doing more of is these flexible working arrangements, job sharing and things like that, that allow us to meet the needs that the global workforce is now demanding of us. But yeah, there'll be jobs that you can never do from home. Yeah.
Michelle?
Yeah, we had, COVID for all its horrors was a big step change for us. While of course, you can't build buildings at home either. You can certainly go through the design and the engineering phases before you get to site remotely. And it's certainly given us confidence that through the pandemic and through the time where we had to work from home, that it works, that it's possible. So it has allowed a lot more flexibility in those early stages, in the design stages of the process. So, but certainly once you get to site, it is very much a hands-on project. And again, you have to be there, you have to be monitoring, you have to be overseeing every step of the way that a contractor is as the contractor is delivering the building. Dubai Holdings strive for quality in everything that we deliver and do, and you can only do that with eyes on the job, physically there.
Oh, we've got a question in from Serena, who I know is mother to a now teenage daughter, asking about what we should be telling young girls, students, when it comes to what they study, and also how to get that first foot in the door, whether it's internships, and we know that the law here has made that a lot easier now for internships and flexible working for teenagers. What should we be encouraging our daughters to do?
Believe in what they want to do and believe in the passion they have it. And I think they need guidance at that time. Giving them the opportunities for internships, even if they are in the schools, give them also a sight on, the work environment. And the mother is the first door that to, backing up the daughter and telling her how to navigate through, an experienced business environment.
I guess I would say help build the confidence that we've talked about here and encourage their daughters to you know, if you don't have a seat at the table, which is a cliched term, just go anyway. Like, you know, don't let a no invitation to a party stop you from going. The worst thing that people can say is, you know, leave. But the amount of times that you can have access to, you want to have access to the rituals of a company that create the decisions in the company. You want to be able to, you know, learn what the leaders are doing. And so find ways to get into those rooms is what I would say. And don't let and you know, there'll be people who listen to this and curse me afterwards, but don't let, you know, the lack of permission, I guess is what I'm saying, stop you. Sort of be bold.
I think part of figuring out what you want to do and what you're passionate about is figuring out what you don't want to do. So I think any opportunity to get your hands dirty, to work, to see something, even if it's just you're the person in the background carrying the bags, it's a way to figure out if what other people in the room are doing is something you want to strive for, or realize you're miserable there and you don't want to do it, but that's valuable information as well. So I think any little opportunity that our young women can have, and young people in general, to just try opportunities and to be in the different work settings is valuable, because you realize something more about how your path will change. And most people's paths don't end up anywhere near what you think when you're 16 years old, your life career path is going to look like.
Michelle, what should we be telling school-aged, well, not just girls and boys, about breaking into the world of work?
Well, I have, for me, it's two things. And we see it with graduates that we interview and employer interns that we're looking at. There's two things. Again, I'll go back to my word of fearlessness, that, you know, nothing should stop you. If you have a passion and you have a drive, no matter if you get turned down, take another path, take another route, and, you know, let that passion take you forward to where you want to be ultimately. But the other thing I would also say is people should not feel so entitled. To get to where you want to be, to achieve that goal, to build upon that passion, you have to work damn hard. And it's about, you know, rolling up your sleeves and not expecting that you're going to walk into a job immediately and be the CEO of the company. You know, you have to work your way through the ranks, and it's okay to make tea on day one. You know, and be there in the background, just learning, absorb, just listen, take on board, and be part of the team by just participating, actively participating, but participating so that you learn. And through that process, through that experience, again, if you have experience, you have passion, you don't feel entitled, you will get there.
Well, do you know what? And that brings us to our last question. We've got a couple of minutes each, and I'll actually start with you this time, Michelle. What do you want to put in place for the next generation of women who are coming up behind you?
Oh, good question. Well, what do I want to put in place, you know, as a platform is as open a plate as possible. You know, in our organization, we do albeit we are managing the design of buildings, projects across the UAE and overseas. What we want to do is make sure that there are opportunities across that platform for everyone. And, you know, we work at a huge range of scales, whether it be master planning, tens of thousands of homes, down to designing the door handle of you know, in Bulgari hotel, for example. You know, you can go from one extreme to the other. So there is a huge wealth of opportunities. And what we want to be able to do is encourage women who have such a diverse set of skill sets. And, you know, there is no one right person for a job. There will be somebody who you see or you find when you're interviewing for a certain position, but then you find somebody with a skill set that you know is just absolutely brilliant and perfect, and you have to have them as part of the team because they can add something different. And I think through that source and that search for diversity, we will be able to grow our organization to the best that it can be. So an open platform for skills and passionate people who want to participate in that role.
Sara, for Gen Z, for Gen Y?
I agree with Michelle that I think encouraging that passion, no matter what's open, no matter what field, and then really just having an open environment and encouraging an environment where anyone, male or female, can have the confidence and the resources to continue growing that career, and not having any of those glass ceiling moments where, you know, it just gets less and less of a pool of candidates that are ready to go to the next stage. So I think it's our responsibility to be mentoring that next group and to be setting them up to succeed. And I think that's something that everyone needs to take very serious, and we need to take really seriously, because it's on us to be able to set them up to succeed in a way that's better than what happened for us.
I think I'm going to repeat the same. It's encouraging and encouraging and encouraging is exactly what is needed. And the opportunities are various. It's all available over there. They need to grab it, but they need the guidance. And it's good to get them an exposure and give them also to shadow others in the field. So when you shadow someone very, you know, confident in their expertise and in their areas, it will give them that a wide angle to see what is there for them in the future.
Alan, as a person who directly affects HR policy.
Yes, I guess I would do three things. Number one, find those opportunities for P&L roles that I mentioned before, and get women into roles where there's decision making and access and exposure at board level and all of those things. Number two, I would try to build confidence. I would try to encourage women to be resilient. You know, if things happen in the workplace, we go home and we ruminate about them. Men don't do that as much. So let's, you know, take a lesson. I don't want women to be like men, because I think we bring our own skills and personalities to work. But I do want women to be less put off by some of the things in the workplace that don't tend to affect our male colleagues as much. And then finally, I would say choose a company and demand of your company that you have agenda, and don't just do it for the rhetoric, but do it for the results. And I don't think that we are by any means there yet in Jumeirah, at least, but I'm very confident of our commitment. And so find a company that's committed, I would say.
Well, unfortunately, we do have to leave it there today. Just for this panel, this is not the end of the session, but it is the point that I thank the women who have joined me. Khadija Bastaki from D3 Dubai Design District, the executive director there. Sara Stevens, head of operations at Green Planet. Alan Dubale, the chief human resources officer at Jumeirah, and joining us remotely, Michelle Saywood, vice president of design at North 25, part of Dubai Holding Real Estate. Now, we have the breakout sessions now for a lot of these career areas where you can speak to people at all levels of our organization and listen to them talking about their careers and ask a great deal more questions. If you go to the tab again in your dashboard, I'm going to make sure that I get this right, on the left, you can choose from the different breakout rooms. You'll be able to toggle between them. And as I said earlier, all of the sessions are going to be recorded. So whether it's women in construction that you're interested in, whether it's media and entertainment, whether it's hospitality, you've got those choices and you can go and make them now. Thank you so much for joining us.